as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are all here and accounted for, and we are now live. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. Is there any add-ons to our agenda here tonight? Al? Go ahead, Al.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to add an item just to give council and any residents that are tuning in an update on our workplace protocol and what we're doing in response to the provincial announcement yesterday in regards to a shutdown of essential services or non-essential services.
Thank you, Al. Do I see any other add-ons to our agenda? Seeing none, I have a recommendation here that the agenda be approved as presented. Do we have someone to move put on the floor, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adoption of the agenda as amended. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Declaration of interest, you can clear anytime you see fit during the meeting. We have some public hearings here tonight. I have a recommendation here that the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole be recessed to hold a public meeting for the consideration of the following applications. A, Official Plan Amendment 10, Paul Stewart for property located at 1717906 Highway 6. 2, Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z1220, Len and Debbie Bird for property located at 169 Summer Street. And 3, Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z1320, Diane Vergus and Weasel Van Lowen for property located at 179482 Grave Road 17. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Sutherland. If there's no discussion, Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
Is that just my phone or is everybody hearing that?
There does appear to be some sort of feedback. I'm wondering if everyone has their microphones muted, if we can identify who's causing the feedback.
Sorry, everyone, just bear with me for 1 second. Deputy Mayor Carlton, we have lost the mayor being the chair. So if I may, through you, may we take just a minute or a 5-minute recess so I can get the mayor logged back on?
Okay, certainly.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we're all here and accounted for. If you'd like to resume, we are still live.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I assume that the motion was passed. That's when I cut out. So I'll move into public meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if you could, I'd like to retake the vote as we're unsure as to when we lost you. So if you'd please read it again, and then I will take the recorded motion.
Thank you. Okay, I have a recommendation here that the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be recessed to hold a public meeting for the consideration of the following applications. 1, official plan amendment 10, Paul Stewart for property located at 1717906 Highway 6. And 2, zoning bylaw amendment Z 1220, Len and Debbie Bird for property located at 169 Summer Street. And 3, zoning bylaw amendment Z 1320 for Diane Vargas and Weasel Van Lowen for property located at 1794 AT82 Gray Road 17. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. I believe it was moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Thompson. If there's no discussion, Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot. Councillor Carol Barfoot, you are muted.
Sorry, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. I would like to call this public meeting to order. This meeting has been called for the purpose of considering an application for proposed official plan amendment 10 for Paul Stewart for the property located at 717906 Highway 6. Would the clerk please advise those present as to the method by which the notice of this meeting was given? Brittany.
Notice of this public meeting was given by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters, 400 feet of the subject property by email to all of the prescribed bodies on December 11th, 2020, posted at the subject property and posted on the Township of Georgian Bluffs website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Georgian Bluffs before the proposed zoning bylaw is before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted or passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party.
Okay, thank you. Would the planner please explain the purpose and effect of the proposed application and whether any correspondence have been received to date? Jen?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, so you should be looking at the Grace Isle Conservation Authority diagram with the hatched marked lines indicating hazard area. Is that up on the screen for everyone to see?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So this application is made by Paul Stewart. What Paul would like to do is he began the process of converting his garage into 2 secondary dwelling units. Through that process, it was noted that 2 dwelling units, the property wasn't zoned or designated for it. So Mr. Stewart has provided us with applications for an official plan amendment as well as a zoning bylaw amendment. We did have the public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment back in July, and this application for an official plan amendment is coming forward given the requirements noted through the zoning amendment process. So The intent of this application is to change the designation on the lands, and that would change the designation from a space extensive commercial and industrial and environmental hazard designation to a residential and environmental hazard designation. This would then allow Mr. Stewart to legally convert that garage into residential units. Right now, that space extensive commercial and industrial designation doesn't allow for residential development. You can see on the property that there is a house there, and everyone that's familiar with the area knows that that house has been there for about 30 years. And Mr. Stewart used to operate Paul Stewart Towing, but he has since sold the business and wishes to still make use of the property by creating residential rental units. With this application being an official plan amendment, we look at different policies from the province, the county, and the township of Georgian Bluffs official plans. And we see in some areas the plans support what's being proposed, and in some other areas the plans don't support the application. So I have provided you with a policy review in the planning report. We do see that the property is located in the secondary settlement area under the Grey County official plan, and that settlement area designation does allow for residential uses. When you look at the Georgian Bluffs official plan, we further designate it as a space extensive commercial and industrial, and that designation doesn't permit residential. Additionally, the township official plan only permits one secondary dwelling unit, provided it can be properly serviced. So this application for two secondary units is against the plan, which is also why they need the official plan amendment. So if you look at the Planning Act, it does allow, it says an official plan must authorize or shall authorize the use of additional residential units by authorizing two residential units in a detached house and one in a structure ancillary to the dwelling. So that would be the garage. So we've asked the Conservation Authority to provide us with review and comments based on the natural hazards and the natural heritage features. They do that through a fee for service as well as a memorandum of understanding with the township. And they have, at the zoning amendment stage, they did request a floodplain mapping study that was completed, and the Conservation Authority is accepting of the report from the consultant. They do note compliance with Section 3.1 natural hazards of the PPS and Section 2.1 natural heritage features of the PPS. The property also fronts onto Highway 6, so in accordance with the provincial policy statement and the county official plan, we are required to talk to the Ministry of Transportation to see if they have any concerns with the redesignation of the property. They indicated no objection to the proposal, and they did issue land use permits to the property owner in July in support of the application. So we circulated the application to various agencies and all property owners within 120 meters. We did not receive comments from the property owners, but we did receive comments from the agencies. The Risk Management Office, as well as the Historic Saugeen Métis, they had no concerns with the applications. The Grey Sauble Conservation Authority indicated support in their October 8th comments. The Grey County Planning and Development Department, they had some concerns with the servicing. So What they have asked for is they're seeking further planning justification that speaks to whether the proposal is to consider a semi-detached unit or secondary units. There was some differing language in the planning justification report, so they want clarification on that. And they also want a better demonstration that the site can be properly serviced. So if you look at the overall proposal, the image that I have up on the screen there, significant portion of the property is hazard, and they're proposing 3 dwelling units. One of the units was proposed at 3 bedrooms, the other was 2 bedrooms, and then there's also the existing house. So this application has to demonstrate that that parcel of land can appropriately service 3 full residential units. And in the county's opinion, that hasn't been demonstrated. So they have requested, or sorry, recommended deferral of the application until further planning analysis has been submitted and reviewed. They would like to be notified of any decision rendered with respect to the file. The Ministry of Transportation, they reviewed the application and they would be supportive of it pending municipal approvals. And should the municipality approve it, then the property owner is required to apply for a residential MTO entrance permit. The City of Owen Sound also provided comments after the public meeting for the zoning bylaw, so back in July, and they expressed concerns with servicing, and they requested that additional information be forwarded to them for review. And we did forward the official plan amendment application to them and any of that supporting information. And we didn't receive any comments back from them by the report submission deadline. So at this time, given that the county has recommended that decisions be deferred on this, pending additional information, the recommendation of the report is that it be received for information at this time. And I'm available to answer any questions from council if necessary.
Thank you, Jen. Would you share your screen, please?
Yes. Okay, did that work?
Yep. Thank you, Jen. No member of the public registered with the clerk to provide comments in support of or in opposition of the application. Planning consultant Ron Davidson is present to speak on behalf of the applicant. And Ron, are you any comments? Are you here, or is it going to be Genevieve?
Just as a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, it's Cuesta Planning Consultants that's the agent for this application, not Ron Davidson.
Okay, I'm just sorry, I'm just reading my script. Okay. So who is going to do? Is it Genevieve?
Scott here.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think Jen has outlined the application very correctly and succinctly. The issue with the county comments, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the township has already approved the servicing on the site. There are 2 wells and there are 2 separate wastewater systems, and I believe that they meet the approval of the township CBO. So I don't think that's really an issue to cause a deferral of this. I'm not too sure what the problem is with the secondary units. They're in the form of semi-detached as opposed to a duplex or something of that nature. The comments are quite minor and really are a little bit confusing as to what the issue is or what the problem is. We'd like to have the municipality proceed with approval of the official plan amendment in the near future, because we don't really I don't think we can really, or in my mind, can justify any type of a deferral for the reasons outlined by the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, we are going through an official plan amendment to address those issues. That's why, as Jen said before, you know, it doesn't conform to a number of issues or a number of policies in the official plan. That's why we've applied for an official plan amendment. So I thought those issues would be taken under consideration as part of the amendment.
Thank you,
Thank
Don. Jen, do you have any comments? Your recommendation is to defer it except for information. What is your comments?
So I just wanted to clarify, the comments coming back from the county indicate that they're not clear on whether the application is to allow for detached, semi-detached units, which would constitute a second dwelling unit on the property. In our zoning bylaw, a detached dwelling is that it's a dwelling. It would be similar to it's considered a house. A secondary dwelling unit is secondary to the principal use or to the main house. So it's technically smaller in size. And if you're allowing a duplex on the property, then you've effectively got two full dwelling. You still end up with 3 dwelling units, but you've got effectively 2 houses, and that's not the intent of secondary dwelling unit legislation. The other thing is that the application didn't provide any sort of well records or servicing calculations for the county to review. So what they're asking for is more specific information so that when they do their review, that they're able to look and see what the output from those units would be and whether or not the lands can support it. So even though at this point, I believe the chief building official has done a preliminary review of the proposed servicing. So for example, they suggested that they're going to come up with a Waterloo biofilter for the septic system. And in his opinion, you know, that would work, but we still need to see where the septic field is going and see the calculations for each of the units. Because if you've got a second structure that has 5 bedrooms and 2 kitchens and 2 washing machines, then on that lot that's fairly constrained, as you saw with the Conservation Authority mapping, in addition to the main house, which I believe has 3 or 4 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a washing machine, we need to ensure that it can be properly serviced without polluting the environment, as well as it can meet the PPS requirements to service it for the long term with no negative impact. And those are comments that have come back both from the county as well as the city of Owen Sound.
Thank you, Jen. Moving forward, does council have any questions regarding the proposed application? Seeing none. Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to submitting their comments to this application. May I call for an adjournment of this public meeting? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton. And unfortunately, my screen has gone blank again. And could you please use your hand? Who would second it? Second by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Mr. Mayor, as it's procedural, you may do so simply through the raising of hands.
Okay, I'll ask for All those in favor of the motion before us, please. Councillor Barfoot? Are you for or against?
Councillor
for.
Barfoot has her hand raised.
Okay. All right, I believe the motion is carried. Okay, I have a recommendation here that report PL 2021-05 for Paul Stewart regarding Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan amendment 10 be received for information. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Please show your hand. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. If there's no discussion on the motion, please raise your hand. All who is in favor, please.
Mr. Mayor, I will take the recorded vote now, please.
Thank you, Brittany. Go ahead.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are in favor or opposition to the motion as read by the chair. Councillor Carol Barfoot,
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn,
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland,
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
For.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to our second public meeting here tonight. Madam Clerk, my screen has, I've lost all contact with the rest of council other than I can only see their names.
Mr. Mayor, if you could commence the public meeting, I will come and assist you during the discussions.
I would like to call this public meeting to order. This meeting has been called for the purpose of considering an application for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application Z1220 for Len and Debbie Bird for the property located at 169 Summer Street. Would the clerk please advise those present as to the method by which the notice of motion was given? Madam Clerk?
Notice of this public meeting was given by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters, 400 feet of the subject property by email to all of the prescribed bodies on November 19th, 2020, posted at the subject property and posted on the Township of Georgian Bluffs website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Georgian Bluffs before the proposed zoning bylaw is adopted or passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would the planner please explain the purpose and effects of the proposed application and whether any correspondence has been received to date? Jen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, so you should be looking at an image of Len and Debbie Bird's property. So this is located at the corner of 16th Street West and Summer Street in Brook. Len and Debbie would like to put in a pool and a pool house. And if you can see my mouse moving, this is the general area where they would like to locate the pool. So because the property is in Brook, the actual property is comprised of two separate parcels. So the properties need to be deemed to be one lot so that they meet the setback provisions of the zoning bylaw. And also the existing property right now has 33 meters of frontage, and for the bylaw requirement for a property in Brook is a 40-meter minimum frontage. So this application seeks relief to the minimum lot frontage and to recognize the lot, the deeded lots, as an existing lot of record. Our bylaw doesn't recognize deemed lots to be a lot of record. So once this application is approved, the deeming bylaw would be registered, and we would be able to issue Len and Debbie a building permit for their pool. So you can see in the report, it's a very brief policy review. The property is in a settlement area. Residential uses are permitted. A pool is accessory to a residential use. There's no concerns there. Development in Brook generally has to comply with the Brook Area Stormwater Management study. So the applicant did retain an engineer to provide that stormwater plan. In the engineer's opinion, it wasn't necessary for this lot. We had that opinion reviewed by the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority as well as the Township Chief Building Official, and they're both in agreement with that. So this property, the installation of a pool doesn't warrant the stormwater plan, so there is not one provided for this application because it is not required. The zone R1C does allow for residential uses, so the proposed pool as development is definitely acceptable. So we know from other applications in Brook that through the deeming process, what will happen is that the lots will be deemed to become one approximately 2,023 square meter lot. And that meets the requirements of the bylaw. The bylaw requires a minimum of 2,000 square meters. That deeming bylaw gets registered on title to the land, and we invoice the property owner for the registration costs and the associated legal fees. The application was circulated, as the clerk did mention, to all the property owners within 120 meters. We did not receive any comments. The agencies all provided comments. Grace Harbor and the County Planning Department, they have no concerns with the applications. They both request to be notice of any decision on the file. The Historic Saugeen Métis does not have any objection or concerns, and the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority Risk Management Office noted that no policies apply to the activities in this application. So the application demonstrates that is consistent with provincial policy statement, the county official plan, the Georgian Bluffs official plan, and the intent of the zoning bylaw. The recommendation is for the report to be received and that the application to be approved, as well as the deeming bylaw. I do see that Mr. Bird is in the meeting, and if council has any questions for me, I would be happy to answer them. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. No members of the public registered with the clerk to provide comment in support of or opposition to the applicant. The applicant, Len Bird, is present. Len, do you wish to submit any comments?
No, I don't at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. Does council have any questions on the proposed application? Seeing none, council will consider all matters placed before it prior to submitting their comments to the applicant. May I call for an adjournment of the meeting by show of hands, please? Okay, it's carried. Thank you. I have a recommendation here that report LP 2021-03 for Z1220 for Len and Debbie Bird be received for information, and that provided that no issues are raised at the public meeting, that zoning bylaw amendment application Z1220 and the corresponding deeming application for Len and Debbie Bird for lands described as TP Brook lots 177, 179, ES Summers RP 16R 4274 Part 1 be approved. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Barfoot. If there's no discussion on the motion, Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot,
4.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn,
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland,
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. So we'll move on for our next public meeting. I would like to call this public meeting to order. This meeting has been called for the purpose of considering an application for zoning bylaw amendment application Z1320 for Diane Vergas and Weasel Van Loan for property located at 179482 Grade Road 17. Would the clerk please, would the clerk please advise those present as to the method by which this notice of motion was given? Madam Clerk?
Notice of this public meeting was given by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters, 400 feet of the subject property by email to all of the prescribed bodies on November 27, 2020, posted at the subject property and posted on the Township of Georgian Bluffs website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Georgian Bluffs before the proposed zoning bylaw is adopted or passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party.
Thank you, Brittany. Would the planner please explain the purpose and effect of the proposed application and whether any correspondence has been received to date?
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. So on the screen here, I am showing you a picture or an image from Grey County mapping of the property. And I'm going to indicate here using my cursor that this is the area where the proposed kennel will be. You can see that the property is very densely treed through here. And I can zoom in. And you'll see the dense tree cover through here. The surrounding properties, I'll just give you an image of that. You can see there are a number of houses in the area that may or may not be impacted by the operation of a kennel. So this application, as you've read in the report, is to add a kennel as a permitted use. Our zoning bylaw right now actually lists it as a prohibited use in all zones. The application proposes a kennel with up to 25 dogs for the purpose of breeding and selling puppies, and they would as a permitted use in this rural zone. The property is about 79 acres, and is pretty much at the intersection of Lindenwood Road and Grey Road 17, as seen on the GIS, excuse me. So in the planning report there, I've provided a policy review and identified that the property is designated rural under the county official plan. That official plan considers a kennel to be an on-farm diversified use. They permit them, and on-farm diversified uses are subject to size restrictions. So with this proposal, the proposed building size exceeds the 20% size restriction. County staff have reviewed it, and they're recommending that either the building size be reduced or the overall area of the use increased to meet the 20% criteria. The Conservation Authority reviewed the application and provided comments on natural hazards, natural heritage features, water and regulated areas, and noted consistency with the provincial policy statement. They did specifically note that minor tree removal may occur as a result of the proposed development, and they recommend that tree removal be limited to only what is necessary for the proposed structure, and any tree removal only occur outside of the breeding bird timing window from May 1st to August 15th in any given year. So the operation of a kennel falls under the kennel bylaw and the animal control bylaw. Those are administered by the clerk's department. With this application, because it's prohibited by the zoning, we don't have any, we don't identify setbacks in our zoning bylaw. However, the kennel bylaw does. So that bylaw requires a 46-meter setback, which is 150 feet to any property line. This application proposes a 180-meter setback to any property line, so that's about 590 feet. The bylaw also requires that a chain link fence enclose any dog runs, and that fence be a minimum of 5 feet high. So in support of the application, the owners submitted a detailed business plan. I did provide a link to their website for council's review, as well as included that business plan in along with the report. We did clarify with the kennel operator, there is a requirement to provide registration papers for every dog in the breeding kennel. They've got to be registered with an association that's incorporated under the Animal Pedigree Act. With this application, they would like to permit up to 25 dogs under the age of 12 weeks for the purposes of breeding and selling puppies. Right now, the kennel bylaw permits a maximum of 15 dogs and requires council's permission for numbers above that. Also, we do address kennels in the fees bylaw, and the fees bylaw does identify that council sets the license fees for kennels with more than 16 dogs. We did have, through the comments that we received, there was a suggestion for site plan control to be applied to this application should council approve it. Should the application be approved, then I would recommend the site plan control application be required. The kennel and the animal control bylaws address the operation of the business, so the site plan control application would not address those. But from the comments from the Conservation Authority and the county, site plan control agreement would address the would address the karst assessment findings, the timing of tree removal as identified by the Conservation Authority, and would address the county's concern with the size of that on-farm diversified use. It could effectively delineate the kennel envelope to ensure that it complies with the county's plan. So we did circulate this application. We didn't receive any written comments in support of or in opposition to the application from the residents. The Grace Level Conservation Authority and the risk management official, and the Historic Saga Métis have, they didn't identify any concerns. The Grace Level Conservation Authority has no objections to the approval of the application, but they would like the tree removal and the karst assessment incorporated into a site plan agreement. They request to be notified of any decision. Craig County Planning and Development, they did recommend that a site plan agreement be applied to regulate the operation. As I've just mentioned, the existing bylaws, the municipal bylaws, address the operation of the kennel. So it's not necessary to include that in a site plan agreement. And they do note provided positive comments are received from the local conservation authority. The recommendations from the GM Blue Plan report referring to the karst assessment are incorporated through the planning process, and revision to the outdoor component of the on-farm diversified use is reviewed to conform with Table 8 size criteria. They have no further concerns with the application, and they request notice of any decision rendered with respect to the file. So at this point, the recommendation is that the report be received for information. I am available to answer any questions that that the committee may have. And I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. No members of the public registered with the clerk to provide in support of the application. Mr. James Wheelander, registered to speak in opposition to the application. Mr. Wheeler, please go ahead if you're there.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Rollinger is not with us currently. So if you'd like to move to planning consultant Ron Davidson.
Okay, thank you. Planning consultant Ron Davidson is present to speak on behalf of the applicant. Ron, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I shall be brief. Jen did a thorough job in evaluating or describing the proposal, and I appreciate that. Diana and Wesso are with us tonight as well. If there are any questions specifically regarding what they're proposing to do in terms of their proposed day-to-day operations of the dog kennel, they're here to answer those questions. Just a few quick things from my end of it. The subject property is 79.5 acres large or in size. It's mostly forested. As Jen indicated, there's a house on the property, kind of in the middle, if you want to say it's in the middle of the property, and they want to put the kennel nearby. It would be set back considerable distance from each of the lot lines. Jen indicated about 180 meters from the closest lot line, and that is the closest lot line. But also, and that would be to the west. But it's 205 meters from the county road, 630 meters from the lot line to the north, and 223 meters from the lot line to the south. So it's, excuse me, it's set back quite a distance. And like I said, that almost the entire area is forested. Jen did indicate that there's some houses nearby, no doubt about that. The nice thing about this, or one of the great things about this particular location, though, in terms of putting the proposed dog kennel where they intend to put it, is it's going to be still set back quite a distance from the closest neighbor. By my math, using the county GIS software program, the closest house is located. I'll use Imperial. I'm a bit better with that. 928 meters to the southeast, and then from there, the next one is 1,096 feet away. The next one, 1,381 feet away, and the fourth closest is about the same as well over 1,300 feet away. So that's very important when you're dealing with a dog kennel. The other thing about dog kennels is it's nice to arrange them so that the dogs can't see neighbors and they can't see people walking or driving by. That creates dog barking, and that's really what causes the nuisance. And so where this kennel is located, there shouldn't be an issue in that regard, because you will not be able to see the dog kennel, and the dogs inside will not be able to see people walking by or neighbors on adjacent properties. I should indicate with regard to the official plan, there was this whole area of the township, you may have heard this before, is identified as a karst area. So Diana and Wesso hired GM Blue Plan hydrogeologist to make sure that there wasn't karst, and they did the study and there wasn't. Also, it's identified in the county official plan as being a significant woodland, and the Conservation Authority was out before I got actively involved and identified this area as an area that's not of concern in terms of putting up a new small building and not impacting on the significant woodland. The last thing I'll have to say is just we knew all along that a site plan agreement would likely be required. It will implement the recommendations from the Conservation Authority, specifically making sure that it's built where we say we're going to build it. Secondly, it'll address the karst, although there's really not much more to say about karst. But it can also get into things like hours of operation, ensuring that the dogs are kept inside, and they will be kept inside this brand new sort of state-of-the-art building, if you will. But they will have pens outside, but there'll be hours of operation where the dogs cannot go out because that could, if they did in fact bark, that could be annoying. But bottom line is there hopefully would not be any impact on the neighbors whatsoever. That's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Does council have any questions regarding the proposed application? Seeing none? Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to submitting their comments to the applicant. Do I have a adjournment of the public meeting, please? That's okay. We are adjourned. I have a recommendation here that report PL 2021-04 for Diane Vargas and Wessel Van Loen regarding Township Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z 1320 be received for information. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by Councillor Pringle. If there's no discussion on the motion before us, Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving off our agenda, we have no presentations here. We do have a delegation. We have a delegation from the South Bruce Peninsula Physician Recruitment Committee, and I believe Corey and Linda are going to give a presentation.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. We have Corey joining us via video, and we have Linda joining us via telephone. Linda, you have been muted. You will have to select *6 on your keypad to unmute yourself.
So I guess Corey, you have the floor then.
Yes, thank you, by the way, for giving us an opportunity to speak to council this evening. I'm Corey Dobbin. I'm co-chair with Linda Isbester of the Town of South Bruce Physician Retention and Recruitment Committee. And we just wanted to take a few moments to reintroduce ourselves. And I do apologize for my background. My children have taken over all of my technology, and my daughter is in love with cats. So there you have it. But moving on, last year, the Town of South Bruce decided that the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee would no longer be a committee of council. And with that, a group of us have continued the committee. So Linda and I are co-chair. There are 7 of us in total, including Linda and me. And we're picking up where we left off with the former committee. In trying to attract qualified physicians to our local hospital, as well as our, local physician offices. And the past year obviously has had its challenges for us, like everyone else. But, with COVID, we have, like council yourself, we have figured out how to move forward. We did take a little bit of break during the initial lockdown, but we are back in full force and, revamping what we're doing and how we're doing it. When we are able, we do meet in person, but of course we've had some Zoom meetings as well. Linda's going to speak to a couple of the key points that we've been working on in this past year, such as a leaflet, Gwen Devereaux, and then a general recap of where we are with Grey Bruce Health Services. So Linda, if you're there, I'll let you jump in. Or is Linda still muted?
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, I'll jump in while we figure out where Linda is, so we're not taking up too much time. But we have generated basically a leaflet that is talking about our general area, what practicing in Grey Bruce would look like, both from the hospital standpoint as well as in the offices, and some general information about our area. So that's given to locuming physicians that come up for short periods of time, as well as medical students and residents, which we have found in the past, it is those medical students, residents, or locuming physicians that kind of get drawn to the area, as opposed to, people just out of the blue and fanning these out. So we have that available. We're getting those out to any physicians in the area. We also did a Zoom call recently with Gwen Devereaux, and I don't know if anyone is familiar with her, but she was extremely successful in Goderich over the past decade or so in recruiting a number of physicians. And so we tapped into that resource, had a Zoom meeting with her, and she shared her experience, what worked for her, what hasn't. And we took a great deal, I think, away from meeting with her. But one of the points she drove home, again, is that personal experience. We are one of many communities in Ontario, rural communities, looking for physicians. So how do we create that, experience and kind of hopefully stand out other than just our landscape and our geographical region? Grey Bruce Health Services, we also met with them as well and just reviewed what they do from a recruitment standpoint, how we can support them, how they can support us, also just reestablish that engagement with them, which has been one of the key things we're focusing on, is re-engaging with our stakeholders, which, again, is part of the reason we wanted to come as a delegation to council this evening. And really gather input, because again, as we are no longer a committee of council, that does provide us a little bit of an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. And we're looking to do that and make sure that we're serving the entire area and the population, as well as a group of physicians and the various communities that the group of physicians out of Wiarton and Sauble take care of. So in the near future, and again, we're constrained by current situations provincially, but we do have a physician who should be joining the Wiarton group in the fall. She's currently on maternity leave, but she'll be joining in the fall and starting a new practice. We also have a locum a medical resident who has been returning to the area multiple times. She is very much interested in practicing in this area, but like most new grads, they seem to want to come to an area, locum for a little while, get a feel for it. But again, we're very much engaged with her because she has expressed an interest in our area. And recently we added Dr. Freeman to the group here in Wiarton. He is returning. He had practiced here a number of decades ago, but his specialty is sports medicine, but it lends itself to a need very much in the community in this area, and will hopefully reduce some wait times for sports medicine and ortho needs in the community as a whole. So there's been some positive movement in the past year, and the forthcoming year, we think there's going to be some more. Some of the other key things we're working on is our web presence. I did forward out the Bruce MD, which was the previous committee had generated, and spent a lot of time and financial resources getting that up going. We're in the process of assuming that website and with plans to update it and also be a little bit more reflective again of the area that we serve. Again, not just the town of South Bruce Peninsula, because the Wiarton Hospital does serve a lot of members from Georgian Bluffs and even beyond. And then also, going back to Gwen Devereaux's points, that personal experience and how to generate it, we're, just looking at ways we can do that and ensuring that, accommodations for locums, residents, medical students, or even just visiting doctors who are looking at the area, reflects who we are as a community and gives them the best experience possible. That's kind of our, next steps, as well as just, making sure the structure of the committee and the functioning of it is successful. Challenges moving forward, obviously COVID-19 is, causing challenges across the board. It also limits face-to-face interaction for us. But again, I think we're all making do as best we can. One of the other challenges I would say for us would be resources, and that again is part of our reasoning for meeting with the various councils as well as other potential stakeholders such as GBHS and others. To tap into resources that exist in our community can put us on a stronger footing with any potential recruits. But again, it's that sort of people power resource that we're looking to tap into. We have spoken with the economic development for the officer for the town of South Bruce. And, you know, we're looking at updating the website. I know most councils have people with a lot of experience in updating websites and even a Facebook presence. And, you know, general resources as to, you know, how we can create that experience and then how we can tap into people, as well as the financial component of what we're doing. As far as the, you know, web presence comes into play, that is a costly endeavor, although we are going to leverage what already has been done. We also, you know, consider the retention portion of the committee very important as well. And so we're looking at various ways. Typically, we would host gatherings for the physicians that are here and invite potential recruits to that, but obviously that is not an option anymore. So yeah, we're just we're trying to reinvent ourselves on a number of levels as a committee as a whole, which I think we've been quite successful in doing, and then also just with the parameters and constraints of the current world. So I don't want to take too much of anyone's time, but if there are any questions or any comments, we would love to get some feedback.
Thank you, Corey. Councillor Thompson, you sit on the doctor recruitment committee for Township Georgian Bus. Any comments from you first?
I don't. Thanks very much for including me. I'm really excited to have the group talking today before us and sharing some of their progress so far. I've been a member of this committee for a long time, I guess almost probably closer to a decade, and I'm excited for the work that this group has done, and they've really gotten organized and stayed committed as an independent committee. And I'm really excited for some of the new strategies they're trying and the new approaches to really getting out there and finding the doctors in a little bit more unique and different ways than we've tried before. So I think that Corey did an excellent job summing up the effort. The committee's really active and really engaged. They're finding the way and having good productive meetings every week and reaching out to people that are having success and finding out what they're doing, and also staying in touch with Grey Bruce Health Services and saying, you know, how do we complement what you're doing, and how do we keep our facility at the front of your mind when you're researching, and how do we sort of support that work that you're doing, because they have a unique job where they recruit, but they're recruiting for 5 sites. And so our committee's done a respectful job of saying, you know, are we doing the right things? What can we do to support your effort? And how do we let you know that we're here? So I won't restate everything that Corey has said. I think the conversation for us at budget time is to consider, in the past, what we've done is thrown a little bit of money at the operations for this committee. And I think what the committee is saying to us is, you know, looking at partners in the community and with us, I wonder if the role for us is to consider, when we have a doctor that's close or looking at our area seriously, what do they need from us in a more meaningful partnership? So that's great. Thanks very much, Corey and Linda, for joining us and sharing your progress so far.
Thank you.
I see that Linda's here. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I see that Linda, I think that she's gotten off mute now, so she may want to share comments too.
Okay, Linda.
Hello, am I there?
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much, and I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm not very computer savvy, but Corey has done a wonderful job of covering what we were going to want to tell you tonight, and Ryan also has brought forward that we are looking for some financial assistance, both in upgrading our website and starting Facebook and whatever to get ourselves out there And again, when we get a potential position, that we could get some money from Georgian Bluffs to assist us in welcoming them to our community.
Thank you, Linda. I just wondering, trying to put both of you on the spot, Linda and Corey, did you have a financial figure in your mind that you were hoping you could get from Georgian Bluffs?
Well, and Linda, I'll jump in. We do have these discussions in our meetings when we're looking at a physician coming to town. You know, we were looking to give a sort of startup package, and typically it's been a return of service over 4 years with a 3-year financial incentive. That number sits at about $3,000 per year from Georgian Bluffs. In our mind, just throwing hard dollar figures out there. Again, that's up for discussion across the board. As far as financials for keeping the committee going, at this point, we still have money in the bank that we are working with. We have asked for a couple of quotes from 2 different places for our web presence, basically, is our current sort of big financial need. So updating that website as well as generating a Facebook page. So we're kind of waiting for those proposals to come back. We do expect those to be, you know, under 2,000, but we really don't have an idea exactly where that number is going to fall. So for operation of the committee over the next year, I don't have an exact number to throw out. And Linda, you know, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Linda, go ahead.
I agree. I agree that it's undetermined what we're going to need in the next little while until we get our quotes back.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your great presentation. I'll turn it over the floor to Council. Does the Council have any questions first, and then I'll go to the CAO? See none. Al, I've seen your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the delegates. I would suggest that we defer this item or this request to Budget Committee. We're going to be speaking about budget in 2021 in the coming weeks and months to come. So I would ask that the delegates please, once they get their firm number in place, if they could send it to our attention so that we can put it on the budget for deliberations and requests. But I would also remind Council that on staff's agenda is sort of a donation/gift/community support policy that staff are going to be drafting, and our intent is before the end of the year, in particular for the 2022 budget, is to have a full policy in place where community groups such as this group and others would be able to have a formal application process. Council can then review the merits. We'll have sort of a criteria involved, and we can set a budget. But I appreciate the work that this is done, that the delegation is doing. I think it's something that's very valuable for our area. I think it's something that we need to consider in the context of all the overall efforts and the financial constraints that we currently have, and then put something together in front of Council that will provide a wholesome picture on an annual basis so that Council can make an informed decision on financial support to these groups and others.
Thank you, Al. Well spoken. Curry and Linda, great presentation. Feel free to come back anytime you wish. I'll leave it open up again to the floor. Does Council have any questions of our delegate? See none. Well, thanks very much for coming, and we'll move on with our agenda.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Moving on for our agenda, we have no correspondence. Staff reports. We have a staff report, Water Systems Annual Inspection. The recommendation is that the report OPS 2021-01 be received for information. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Barfoot. Is Steve going to speak to this report, or Madam Clerk, or is it just for information?
We do have our Director of Operations on the line. Steve, if you have any comments, please do so.
Basically, this report to council is basically information. It shows what was from the final inspection in November of 2020. You guys had a rating of 100%, so it was really good as well. So I just thought I'd bring this forward to council for their information only.
Thank you, Stephen. There's nothing alarming on the report, so that I could see anyway, so that's great. Does council have any questions on the motion before us? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on, we've no oh, sorry, I missed the public question period. Madam Clerk, was there any questions come in from the public?
There was not.
Thank you. No unfinished business. We're down to new business. I took it upon myself and asked Councillor Colburn if she'd give us a Reader's Digest version of how her Environment Committee is coming on. So, Councillor Colburn, I'm going to put you on the spot, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to let council know that we have our newly formed Climate Action Committee together. We have met 3 times since November of last year. This is a committee of Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton and myself representing council, along with 5 outstanding community members. I'm going to read their names out, and apologies if I mispronounce anyone's last name. John Anderson, Ann Schneider, Luc Zanvliet, Danuta Vallo, and Bob Gray. This is an enthusiastic, knowledgeable contingent from our public, and they are gung-ho to do lots of work and move this agenda along. So I'm very grateful to be working with these folks. As you know, council passed our terms of reference. That's been adopted. So the work currently is in developing a mission statement and vision statement for this committee, as well as a committee work plan. So that's in the works now. Stay tuned for a presentation to council by Dr. John Anderson, who's part of this committee, and he'll be presenting an overview of climate change and its impacts locally at our January 20th council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Colburn. That's great to see that. Thank you. So we'll move on. Al, maybe at this time you could give us an update on our COVID new initiatives and so on.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take the opportunity to provide council with an update. As you're all aware, yesterday the province announced a province-wide shutdown commencing at 12:01 tonight or tomorrow morning. Management got together this morning to review the direction from the province. We also reviewed the various protocols from our health authority. We met with and discussed a bunch of issues with the neighboring CAOs and trying to understand exactly best practices. And we sent an email out today to staff and to council in regards to what we're proposing and what we're going to start doing as of tomorrow. So just to summarize for council and for your information, where possible and depending on the roles and responsibilities, staff will be working from home effective tomorrow morning. Essential staff, and we've identified some essential staff, some folks that will be coming in, a very skeleton staff, some from accounts payable, payroll processing, get our tax bills processed and inserts processed. So answer the phones, things of that sort. We're going to have a very skeleton staff in to do that. They'll be following all the health protocols, but for the most part, the majority of staff will be working remotely. We've started an inventory of exactly the tools and hardware that staff will be required to have so that they can operate efficiently from a remote location. And we're talking things like laptops, cell phones, printers. That is all being inventoried, and that will all be provided to staff so that not only will they be working remotely, but they'll be productive and efficient. And we shouldn't see a significant, if any, drop in our service levels for our ratepayers. Of course, there'll be some staff members in certain areas where the workload is such and staffing vacancies are such. So we'll of course ask for patience from some residents and some stakeholders, but for the most part, the objective is to keep service and business continuity as much as possible while ensuring the safety of our staff. No change to our council meetings moving forward. Schedule will remain the same. Council and committee meetings will stay as originally scheduled, but as tonight, as you can see, for the most part, we're looking to have all of our meetings done virtually with all of our attendees virtually. We will make accommodations for anyone who has some issues with internet connectivity, and as such, the chambers will be available if someone does need to come in. We would just ask that we be notified in advance so that we can have everything ready for that. Staff who are essential, we are providing them with letters so that if they are stopped in transit on the way here or in transit to do whatever work they need to do, that they can provide proper identification and letter to the authorities if they should be stopped and asked why they're not at home and why they're traveling on our roads. We will continue to also have the flexible hours for staff. So we are in a period right now where we have some staff that have got smaller children, and it's becoming a real juggling act to try to homeschool your children and also work at home. So we are allowing that flexibility. So there might be some staff members that between 10 a.m. and 12 noon or 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. they are not able to do their jobs because of the requirements and the juggling act at home, but we are providing them the ability to work after hours, early mornings, weekends, whatever it's going to take to get done so that they can have proper work-life balance, understanding the challenges that a lot of our staff are having right now. We'll also be updating our website and the communications to allow our residents to know sort of the precautions that we're taking. We're also going to update our electronic signboards. We've got 2 of them so that residents driving by will be able to see that information as well. And we're going to also be extending the garbage tag policy. If you recall, we decided to waive those fees. We are not looking for our residents to have to leave their home to go purchase garbage tags during this pandemic and this stay-at-home order. So we are going to extend that for the duration of this shutdown period as well, so that we can encourage and help our residents stay at home as much as possible and not have them forced to leave their homes as well. So that's what we're doing. The situation is very fluid. It seems to be changing all the time. There's always seems to be different interpretations of what's being done, but what we do know is that we're all on the same page in terms of trying to ensure the safety of our staff, of council members, and our residents, and we're going to do our part and try to model the way so that everyone in our community can see that we are doing our part and doing the best we can to keep everyone safe and sound, but while also being respectful to taxpayers' dollars and making sure that we remain productive as staff if we are working remotely and being able to provide the level of service that our residents are expecting from us.
Thank you, Al. Does council have any questions of Al while we have him? Councillor Colburn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, thank you, Mr. Menezes, for what you're doing to assist staff to work from home. I think it's essential at this time that we ensure that our staff and the public are protected. I think it's worthwhile noting and essential also that council members using the office do so judiciously and sparingly, and when we do, we should be masked. If there's any sharing of spaces or incidents where folks are less than 6 feet apart, I would expect that council should be abiding by the same rules and regulations as our staff are expected to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Colburn. Just so you are probably aware, if I am sitting in the council chambers all by myself, And I am going to try to see if I can conduct meetings from my residence. If something happens that I can't, I will notify Al and so on and come into the council chambers, but we're going to play that by ear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand that, though I do, I think we've all witnessed occasions where folks are not abiding by the masking protocols when they are with others in a shared space. And just in keeping staff safety and our own safety in mind, I just want to be very clear that we should all be doing that, every one of us.
Thank you, Councillor Colburn. I think since this new guidelines have come down in the province, I think you'll find if you were around the council chambers or the building, you'll see that everyone is wearing a mask as set out by our CAO and so on. If there's no other questions, Al, go ahead.
No, I was just going to confirm that. I can confirm that my observation since Monday is that staff, council members, everyone has been abiding and wearing masks in all of our public areas. So I can confirm that, and we're all taking it seriously. And I'm happy to report that we haven't had any pushback or any comments from staff or council members about wearing their masks and taking the appropriate precautions. So I'm very happy to report that to council.
Thank you, Al. Before I go to Councillor Barfoot, Brittany, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was simply going to point out that Councillor Barfoot had her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Barfoot.
Sorry. With all this is going on, I'm sure all of us are uncomfortable with it, but we have to live with it. I must point out to you, Mr. Mayor, all of us have to lead by example.
I thank you, Councillor Barfoot, for that. I'll take it. Thank you. Hopefully I do that, but moving off our agenda, we've no notice of motions here tonight. We've no closed sessions. Our next council meeting is January the 20th. If there's no other business here tonight, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Sutherland. Just a show of hands for adjournment. I have yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everybody. We're now adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.